Hey everyone, welcome to the latest installment of MSP Business School. As always, I'm Brian Doyle, and with me today is another friend of the show. Frank has joined us a couple times now, and he came in today as a late game pinch hitter for me, which I really appreciate. That's one of the beautiful things about Frank. He, as a friend of the show, he'll jump in anytime that we've got a moment.
Anytime you need me to talk, I'll talk.
So I want to welcome Frank Raimondi from Nodeware to the show. Thanks, Frank.
My pleasure, Brian. Great to be on. And yeah, I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing that I'm available when you need me, but I'm here for you, man.
No, that's, what makes it a good thing. One, love to have you on. We always have a fun time chatting, but it also gives you more times at bat, right? Those of us that are willing to help others out tend to get a little bit more FaceTime and visibility, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
It's never a bad thing. So with that being said, today's going to be a little bit different. I don't think we're going to go so hardcore on, things that we typically talk about, right? You and I have had many conversations about vulnerability on its own, but more about really the changing pace of technology. And then where things like vulnerability and advisory and those kind of things are, really coming into play. So, why don't we kick off first, Frank, for anybody that doesn't know who you are, maybe a little bit about your background, and then we'll jump in and kind of talk about the accelerating technology world that we live in.
Yeah, perfect. So I manage our alliances and partnerships and sort of large accounts for Nodeware, and we actually have two parts of the company: IGI cybersecurity, which does penetration testing, compliance readiness, vCISO types of things. And then Nodeware is our software arm of the company, vulnerability management, threat exposure types of things. But I've been around in channels for a long time, a little less time on the software and MSP world, sort of the last 5 to 10 years, but long history around big companies like Intel and Apple Computer and Cynix before it was TD Cynix. So been around partnerships and alliances and really value the community element, and that's another thing we have in common around GTIA, and we can talk some about some of that. But I, again, as you said, less about some of the products today, but more, I think the understanding of the speed of things happening and what that implies for an MSP. I'd love to. I can give my perspective, and you're seeing it as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, look, the word that everybody's probably getting tired of hearing all the time is AI, right? But the reality is AI, forget about what it's doing from a productivity, efficiency, all those kind of standpoints. It's really becoming a very big security concern too, right? And, we're hot on the heels of the announcement of Fable 5 going live and then Fable 5 going offline. And and I think some of that is trying to put some guardrails around what's going on. But, Frank, as somebody that's been in the vulnerability sector for a long time, it's certainly changing how we need to look at vulnerability scanning, those kind of things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's sort of when we sort of first became sort of the real evident piece and was going to change things. Like, oh shoot, we're done for, right? You don't need the vulnerability manager. AI is going to do everything. And then it was like, you know what? Not really. I mean, AI is going to make changes everywhere, everything, every day, right? That we deal with. But I think if you look at the devices and the access into environments, right, and what AI can detect, and how quickly it can detect. I mean, we're already seeing some of the the vulnerabilities that are just discovered by random AI bots doing things within a system. Well, that's producing, in a traditional sense, a CVE, right, or a new vulnerability that's found, but it's finding them that much quicker. And I heard somebody today, I was on an earlier call about, there used to be a sort of 0 day or infiltration plus 10 before something might happen. Well, now things are kind of happening before they even get on site. So there's less than a 0 day impact. And if you're not looking at the devices and the software that's on them and the open ports and the access to things on a daily basis, hourly basis, then you're really missing the boat and increasing the risk for your customer. So AI kind of, again, will expedite things, or find things out more quickly, which kind of reinforces why you need a tool like again, not to be too commercial here, but a tool like Nodeware or any of the other vulnerability tools that is looking for those and, gets a daily download, right? We get a daily download of all the new CVEs and particularly the KEVs, known exploited vulnerabilities that get published. And those are going to come quicker now because they're being found and being discovered by some of the AI tools. But if you're not looking out for that and getting alerted of when a new one's been found in your environment or your customer's environment, then you're just waiting for disaster, right? So these tools, I think, are even more critical potentially than they have been before.
And I think you've hit upon a few things that have really come out of, as AI emerges that are becoming realities too. You spoke at the top of that conversation thread that, people were thinking, oh, maybe we'll go build our own, right? And I think very quickly they're looking at it saying, yeah, we can build and go maybe do a scan, but then we got to know what to do with it. And that's where companies like yours have the, security professional expertise to better understand what's coming in. What really needs to be worried about today, what might be something that you can, kind of let slide a little bit further. Yeah. And you're seeing more and more of that around everything AI, right? Like, you can build almost anything in AI and you can build it quickly. Can you maintain it? Can you interpret it? Can you act upon it? Can you stay up and stay current with it? And I think, what was feeling like a little bit of a threat to a lot of software companies, ours included, right? Yours included, is becoming a little bit less because we're starting to see, well, A, things don't come free. B, you still got to have the expertise sitting behind it. And then, C, as tokens become the new oil, if you will, can we actually operate it and sustain it long term? And, and similar to that, it's these exploits are coming much faster because that access is available to us. Can we actually remediate them quick enough? And certainly groups like yours are getting in front.
That's the key part, right? I mean, I think, the AI tools, and we have some AI tools within as do you, and there's things that can be discovered more quickly, right, or more efficiently by the same number of techs and analysts. But you still, as you said, you still got to do it. One other we had a customer discussion last week with somebody we were approaching regarding the CMMC sort of surface, right? It's a big company, and one of their CISOs actually just said it kind of, we were like, really? They basically said, oh, we'll throw the compliance, the regulations into Claude and have that compare it to what we have internally, and it'll tell us what we need to know and what we need to fix. And it was like, okay, good luck with that for one. You might get some of that, but again, the interpretation, as you say, the analysis and the prioritization, right, of that real world situation is going to be critical. And then again, it's ultimately getting it prepared for the final audit, the final people that are actually going to put that stamp of approval on that or not. So it's going to help, right? And but as you said, I think it enables, sort of exemplifies or strengthens the need for the tools that are doing the grunt work, right? The real analysis and the up-to-date current analysis.
Yeah, but again, AI is an amazing concept that's going to be here to really drive change moving forward, and I think all of us are excited about the fact that it helps us get to some problem points we all had as vendors, potentially innovate, in our innovation pipeline and getting there faster. And that's one of the things I'm seeing. And of course, that means everybody benefits. But, as we see with Fable 5 being pulled back, there's also some real life concerns that come with, innovating too quickly and making sure that we can approach things the right way and making sure that these tools are used right by the good guys and not, getting exploited by the bad guys, if you will.
Yep. Yeah, no, and I'll reference, your article you just posted today when this has been recorded on the MIP, right, from the MSP to the MIP, and that information, whether it's again sharing, using it internally, sharing with your customers, because any MSP, I'm sure they get 10 inquiries a day. Oh, I saw this tool. Am I going to be impacted by that? Am I going to need this tool? And if you're using the information wisely, you still got to do your core deliverables, right? There's no getting around that. And those might get some better efficiency on them. But, maybe the AI could stand for, interpreter, right? Yeah. I mean, it's, you're interpreting things for your customers differently now, and you have better tools to do that. But
Yep. And I'll say for the listener, if you don't know what Frank was alluding to, I put up a post about, the managed service providers becoming really almost a managed information provider. And that's where the I could also be very easily interpreter, right, as well. But that's not something, I coined. I think both of us can, agree. We started hearing a little bit more about that, probably starting with GTIA's, communities and councils event, and then going forward. But it really comes down to, when we think about what our customers need now, we've got digital natives in the seat of making decisions. It's not like when you and I started where there was a lot of trying to help people understand what the solution was going to be and why they need to make the investment. Now it's, hey, how do I get more out of what I got? How do I get, how do I get to my results faster? How can I better build better outcomes for my organization? And there's never been a better time for the MSP to really be, level up their game. If you've been wondering how to get more strategic or how to position yourself better with the customer, AI is probably your easiest avenue, if nothing else, just, sharing with a customer, hey, this is what it is, and this is why you got to care. And you and I, as, at our core security guys, inside of ourselves, and we're looking at it as, and you got to know what's going on amongst your people, because bad things can be happening without you even knowing it, right there in your own environment.
Ultimately, I think, kind of like shadow IT has always been there, right? People bringing in their own device and having access. But, the shadow AI, is, I think you probably, God, if I was a business owner today, that would be, I would be that much more concerned. And I don't think they're there yet, right? I think they're kind of just still sort of seeing it as, this is kind of cool. This, everybody, go ahead. But how you protect the data they're accessing, what they're providing out, what they're using it for. And I don't know that. Have you seen many good tools yet for an MSP to help with that? Or
well, I know that's the challenge. I mean, obviously folks like John Harden over at Lemhi are trying to find some better ways to do that. And, they came to life a couple weeks ago, as many of the listeners know. And, there's certainly some other tools out there, but I don't think anybody's got a panacea for it. And the reality is it comes back to that user education, right? Just like we have phishing testing. It's almost like the security and awareness tools really need to start bringing in AI concepts into those tools as well, because I think the threat's even more than me clicking on the wrong thing. Like, it used to be, oh, you got that text from your boss saying to go get the gift cards, and there might have been a $50,000 problem, but now you're talking about potentially exposing your entire financial information or putting your customer list in, and really, or your IP into AI totally innocently, totally being done by somebody that doesn't know any better because they saw a video that said, hey, you can get better controller reports as in finance if you do this. And those people are trying to make a name for themselves, and they don't understand, the other side of this. Hey, you're using a free tool that's training the LLM. That information now becomes part of it, and all the things that go with. And to me, that's the scary part right now. Like, somebody can do something totally inadvertently and truly innocently that can create much bigger havoc than I think even the phishing threats were.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's funny. Just I've been using Gemini a bit. I use some Claude. I haven't really used OpenAI or ChatGPT very much, but the other ones. But you ask it, compare these two things, or tell me about these two companies, and it's easy to forget what is public and what you're doing. And as you said, training them.
Yeah.
What are the things that people want to look at, and it just yeah. As old farts like us, right? It's like this is a little scary.
Well, the shadow IT part was always scary because, I used to always make fun of the marketing groups, right? And which I feel like I can do because being part of that world too, you can do it. But, marketing is constantly trying new tools, right? To try to get engagement, those kind of things, and uploading, a customer list, which may only consist of, individual name and email address, but it's still contextual information. In Massachusetts, that would be enough to be in violation, as an example of some of the privacy rules there. And, it happens every day. And nobody meant to do anything wrong. They just wanted to find a way to get a competitive edge. And I'm just seeing AI being the same way, but I think it's a little bit more widespread. It's across all departments. Everybody can have a use case for it. And I think businesses haven't gotten yet to that point where they're at least saying, hey, let's buy buy pro versions for everybody, so we're in control of what goes out. Or,
Yeah.
certainly we need to get AI policies drafted and have AI education events internally, because it is happening so fast, and everybody's certainly
Well,
seeing the benefit.
you just sort of springed a thought, and sort of the cost benefit, right, or the cost analysis, right? If you say that the pro versions, right, what is that going to cost per employee? Okay, does that, I got to put another thing into my IT bill, right? No, I mean, the same was with vulnerability management. A few years ago, people, I can just do it once a month or once a year, checkbox, and I'm good. It's like, no, right? You need this, and so all these things. You look at a security stack of an MSP, and the amount of items on there, it's just really just humongous, right? Humongous. And so, adding another AI tool, and maybe, I guess people probably are a little bit more open to grab that in, but again, it's another aspect of cost that you need to do. So that may be some value of the position. You maybe have some other people then you can bring on to talk about that, is how do you really position, the value of doing some of these tools, and the cost benefit, and the, just the security value of doing that.
Well, I think it goes back to the whole MIP conversation, right? Because really, this is where the service provider has an opportunity to step up, and a little bit more neutral too. Because I don't think, obviously there's now ways that we can sell AI as a community, but I think a lot of folks are still looking at it and going, all right, the customer's using X, and how can we get control around it? But really, it's educating the leadership at a company and saying, hey, here's what we're seeing. Here's what's the reality. There's a lot of noise, around those two letters, but here's the reality. Your teams are using it, whether you know it or not. Is your information protected? Do you have a policy to govern them? So if you see somebody using it the wrong way, forget about everything else. You can terminate them if it's, for cause, and you have data to back it up. It's really an education that, if you're looking to become, there's always been this argument from my world of VCIO of, hey, we really can't embed ourselves in as leaders. And ultimately, we don't want to have decision-making control, but we do want to have influential control. And this is a topic that I think we can be very influential with and really start working with the customer. And it's ultimately going to lead to the projects that we want to do. It's going to elevate us, but it's also a defense mechanism. I'm hearing more and more from the MSP community that these guys that think they're AI gurus now, who have nothing to do with traditional IT, are coming in and taking that AI seat right out from under the MSP.
Interesting.
And building those projects.
And a lot of that's going to come back to the expectation that the customer has of their MSP, right? I thought I was already paying for that kind of stuff, right? I mean, that's the age-old dilemma, right?
Yep. Have you defined the edges, especially in the world of AI? Do have you defined the edges of your relationship? Are you viewed as a commodity? If you are, this is an opportunity to maybe step up, because it's a really hot topic. And even the smallest of businesses are kind of like, what can I do with AI, to a degree? But I think, when in talking to the MSPs I speak to, many of them haven't even done their first project yet, because everybody's still very confused on what can be done, what should be done. And, we've added readiness assessments within our tool. And again, not to be a commercial, but it's to kind of help everybody kind of level set and go, hey, we even thought about what our strategy is. Do we know who the people are going to be involved in this, as we get into it? And that's where an MSP can really go in and shine today, saying, hey, here's your procedural concerns, your people concerns, your security concerns, your data concerns. I mean, is your data even clean, right? Before you even go into those things. So there's a lot to be gained today through just a simple conversation of, what don't you know, Mr. Customer? What have you been thinking about AI, and can I help you formulate those thoughts?
That's a great positioning, right? It comes back to the influencer, back to the trusted advisor, any of the various terms. Because if you're not answering and talking that they're having that discussion, somebody else is going to be.
Yeah. Or they're going to find somebody else not thinking you're the one. And that's the biggest shame. You've already got the relationship, right? And, that's what we're trying to share with folks is, if you haven't just asked people, where do you need help? That's question number one. And if you hear the same thing enough times, then if you're wondering what your next webinar should be. So we're getting near the end of our time, Frank. I don't know if you have anything else you wanted to cover off on before we wrap up for
No,
today.
if you don't mind, I just wanted to just remind people a little bit of the points that we offer. Just,
Yeah,
again,
please.
continuous vulnerability management, right, and threat exposure is really our core deliverable with Nodeware, and it's easy to use, quick to deploy. It's the full enterprise coverage, both for devices and for the applications on the Windows devices in particular. We're able to monitor and manage those vulnerabilities and patch, and we support tools. The data goes into the vSAIL toolbox as an example. So if you are doing compliance, we're easy fit for that kind of thing. The other piece of our business, again, just as a assess services around penetration testing of all types, right? Physical, on-site, keyboard, physical, OWASP sort of application testing, some vCISO stuff. So if you're interested in any of that, we'd love to hear more from you. You can find me on LinkedIn or reach out at nodeware.com, and we'd love to have some more discussion. But thanks very much, Brian. It's been a great
No,
conversation.
I think I should be thanking you for stepping in very quickly and jumping in here. And, but as you always are willing to, but I always learn a little something too when you join me. So I appreciate that more so. And, I'm excited that, we're not too far away. For those of you that are going out there, GTIA is in about a month, give or take, from when this will be going live. And it'll be really fun to see the channel come together at one of those shows where pretty much almost everybody is there.
Yeah, I agree that everybody's there, and it's a really different variety of a show. If you haven't been before, it's really is the community. It's you can talk up to meet up, go up to the CEO of, or CTO of Pax8 to Ingram to TD SYNNEX to the largest partners and MSPs in the world to the biggest vendors. So it's really is a good avenue if you haven't signed up yet. I know they're still taking registrations and hotel rooms are available. So it's in San Diego, which in August is never a bad place. So
nope, weather's always great in San Diego, so you can't go wrong. But awesome, Frank. Well, thank you again for joining me today. And listeners, as always, you can get this out on YouTube. Just subscribe so you can stay up to date on all the latest episodes, or download it anywhere that you want to listen to your podcasts. Within the show notes, we'll have Frank's LinkedIn address, as well as address or links to both Nodeware and IGI. And Frank, I'll see you in about a month in real time.
yeah.
All right. Take care.